You all knew my father under various hats. But to me, he was a teacher. He taught me by showing me. He was a great, big, obvious example of how to live a good life. He taught me how to be a good man by being a good man. He taught me to work hard by working hard. He taught me how to play and laugh by example. He taught me how to be married, again, by example. He taught me that sometimes you're not as smart as you think you are. He taught me sometimes you lose, and you learn from it, you get up, you don't give up. He taught me to be kind, and he taught me when to be hard. He taught me when to celebrate, as in not too soon. He had high standards, and he lived up to them. He was very smart and unpredictably hilarious. When we were kids, he was trying to get us to use good table manners. He was super frustrated that we just weren't getting it. We were hunched over our plates, eating with our fingers, chewing with our mouths open like little animals. And so he says, "This is what you look like." And he reached into the potatoes with gravy and went and smeared it all over his face, potatoes flying everywhere. He picked up a steak in his hands, he growled at it, and he bit a piece of it off and threw it back on the plate. And we were all like, holy crap, this is going to be great. So we all followed suit. Food was flying everywhere. Everyone's laughing hysterically. This was the first of what we called the gross out dinners. It was messy, it was hilarious, and we learned our table manners. He showed me things that he thought were cool. We were camping at a lake in Nevada next to some salt flats. Camp got set up, and I was probably 7, and Dad told me to get in the car in the passenger seat, and I was like, passenger seat? What? Soon we were flying across these completely level salt flats, and my father turned to me and he goes, look out the window. We're going 100 miles an hour. He thought going 100 miles an hour was cool, so he showed me. And I remember it like I was flying. It was so smooth, so in control. Credit to Ford LTD suspension. He was also a musician. We got our love of music from him. I always thought everybody's parents had perfect harmony. Because they were parents. That's what parents do, right? They sing together. They sing together perfectly, right? Mine did.
Dad, get that microphone right in your mouth.
Okay. I recorded this in the kitchen at Banbury Cross.
Oh, it's crying time again. You're gonna leave me. I can see that faraway look in your eyes. I can tell by the way you hold me, darling, that it won't be long before it's crying time. But they say that absence makes the heart grow fonder, and the tears are only rain to make love grow. But my love for you could never grow no stronger if I live to be 100 years old.
That was their dog.
Oh, it's crying time again. You're gonna leave me. I can see that faraway look in your eyes. I can tell by the way you hold me, darling, that it won't be long before it's crying time.
He was a very ethical and cutthroat businessman. I was lucky to be able to work with him. He showed me how to play fair. He showed me why you should play fair, so you can continue to play again. You play unfair, you might win one time, but you won't be asked to play again. You play fair, you might win, but you'll be asked to play again, win or lose. Taught us how to work and how to play with the same strategy, fairly and aggressively. Here's a little story to give you a flavor of what it's like being raised by my father. I'm sure the details are jumbled, merged, and only how the young me remembers them. But it'll give you a peek. So I'm about 6th grade. We're living at Banbury Cross. My parents spent most of their time clearing brush, working on the farm. One morning, Dad says, we're going to go clear some brush. And I'm like, okay. Boring work. And then he said, we're going to burn it out. I am now ears forward and paying attention. We're going to intentionally light a field on fire? That's freaking awesome. So as part of the clearing brush, we had other tools. We brought my father's horse out to eat the grass also. This is a huge horse. He's beige, and his name was Fat Dog. So the area we were working had no fence, so my father tied Fat Dog off to a very heavy locust post lying on the ground. And we use locust posts all over the place because they're the preferred fence posting. So we thought that weight would keep him on a line grazing peacefully so we could get on with our work. Well, the area we were clearing was outside the ring at Banbury Cross. We ran a hose from the house just in case, and it started off pretty sedately. Small bit of gasoline, light it, let it burn out, then do it again. No problem. We got comfortable with the process and made bigger patches to burn. It's going well, and I'm having a great time working. Since it's going so well, we decided we'd do a bigger patch this time, more gas, light it, and this time it goes whoop. Huge fireball. Heads into the sky. Well, Fat Dog, the genius that he was, finally notices what's happening. Hindbrain went, fire! Decision tree got activated, fight, flight. Hindbrain chose flight. And flee he did. He had this heavy locust post trailing along behind him. Fat Dog tore up Haynes Road with that post bouncing along him like a piece of balsa wood. And he took a left at Lewisdale and went up the hill, right in the middle of the dang road, trailing this locust post, bouncing all over the damn where. It's not conventional normal, but it was Dad normal. Field was on fire, blooming black smoke, huge panicked horse fleeing up Lewisdale Road, trailing lumber, and us just dealing with it like it's a normal everyday problem. Dad shouting orders, okay, you, get a bucket of sweet feet, get in the truck, you, watch the fire. So Fat Dog finally stops at the top of the hill, wild-eyed, in a lather, but powerless against the draw of a bucket of sweet feed. The field fire was contained and the offending brush was cleared. My father was not normal. My upbringing was not normal. Normal is boring. We don't do boring, for which I'm extremely grateful. Today is his birthday. He would have been 86. Happy birthday, Dad. We miss you. Anybody else want to tell a story? Come on up.
Mike McGaughan. I'm his son, grandson of Mack McGaughan. And I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you all something of what I remember about my grandfather. As you all know, my grandfather was a very serious man. Take his careful study of the natural world, for instance, where, after some consideration, he discovered that formations of geese were longer on one side because of the greater number of geese on that side.
Wait. Say that again.
He discovered
Yes.
that formations of geese were longer on one side
Okay.
because of the greater number of geese on that side.
Right, okay. Keep going. Right.
Or when he developed the method of hooking fish by the tail by buying them at the grocery store first. In fact, he spent so much time on the water helping us bait our hooks that he became a master of the practice.
Get it?
He was also a great leader, which he attributed to his finger, which was so long he could point the way. But I think it was at least partially because those with him knew he would keep them safe with his ham-hock fists if necessary. Let me tell you, if anyone struck my grandfather, or anyone who struck my grandfather, would be in a world of trouble as soon as he heard about it. While it is true that he could knock someone into next week, he was not violent by nature. He was actually quite conscientious. Take, for instance, that he was always careful not to overuse someone's name lest he wear it out. No, he preferred to spend our evenings together in cerebral pursuits, discussing such topics as the relationship between the ancient god of man-powered locomotion, Bicycles, and his half-brother, Unisicles, or playing chess, of which he was such an avid fan he would play it with whatever was on hand, be it carved marble or salt shakers. I'd like to leave you with just one more story of the time he saved the day by simply talking to an attacker until they yielded under the torrent of overwhelming friendly banter, which is a trick he told me he learned from a chatty ox who was part horse on his mother's side as the Earth's equator passed the center of the sun's disk. Of course, that's a bunch of nonsense, much like everything I've told you here today, and that is what I will always remember most about him. Always the best nonsense.
Yes.
Yes.
Not going to take quite the same tack that my brother took.
You gotta get on that mic, son.
I know, I'm not started yet.
Okay.
And Aaron.
Alright, so Grandpa Mack turned out to be one of the people that I wrote most about by accident. I didn't intend to. It just, I went to school for poetry and wrote a lot of things and stuff, so I wrote about him a lot. My college application essay was actually about how he heard me playing guitar at Barrenberry Cross, and they told my dad, "You shouldn't be able to play like that yet." It wasn't that good, but he thought it was, so that's fine. But it was really meaningful to me enough to make it a college essay. And I often got that sort of grandpa approval secondhand through my dad. So once after I spent the day with him mending fences, my dad told me that Grandpa had said, "You know, Alex is a really good worker, solid, doesn't rush, doesn't slack off, good." And I'm like, that's really high praise. And I think that sort of secondhand approval meant more because I knew that was Grandpa's approval of me, Dad's approval of me, and Grandpa's approval of Dad, because he told my dad, because he was proud that what he had taught him, he had taught. If that makes sense, that it had kept going successfully without telephone in between. And so rather than being diluted by being third hand or second hand, whatever it is, it just built on itself. It picked up more pride, and that landed harder with me. One of the best things you could do in Grandpa's eyes was learn something well. One of the other best things I found out when I was 13 was apparently breakdance at New Year's, which he thought was cool as hell, and told me about it several times. That was really cool. But that's enough of that, sweet stuff. Now I'm going to read a couple of poems that I wrote about him. They're not sweet. Actually, I'm going to read one poem that I wrote about him a long time ago, and then some parts of another one that isn't the full poem, but it's better to listen to, whatever. This is the first one, and I gave him this for one birthday, and this is my copy. It's a picture of the three of us
after a driving range or golf, one of those. And the poem up here. It's called A Trick. A trick I learned from my dad's dad. You can pull your dick through the leg hole of your shorts to piss while pretending to putt. Now that poem isn't true, of course. He wasn't putting when he demonstrated. He was, pretending to look for a ball in the rough, but whatever. It fit the meter better this way.
You bet.
All right,
That
and
got you into college, right?
yeah, that was while I was in college. That's what I went to school to do.
We're so proud.
The other poem, the next poem that I wrote about him was called Lies My Grandpa Told. And so I'm going to read some of those. I'm not going to read the poem, but because we've heard that he was obviously quite serious. And none of these are dishonest, but they're not true. Obviously, they're lies. Your grandmother's a witch and your father's a vampire.
Yep.
That's that. You can tell how old a tree is by counting the leaves. That's known as a Texas flat snake, that one that went to sleep in the road. And if it was a possum, it would be picked up by the roadside furriers who'll make nice mittens out of it. If you sneak up on a black snake and you can trick him into biting his tail, you can wear him as a belt until sundown. Whoever named toadstools got it wrong. Only frogs poop mushrooms. They should have been called frog shits. After asking him, why is the dog dragging his butt across the carpet? We tried to teach him to use the vacuum, and this is as close as we got. Oh no, we can't fish in this spot. The fish here aren't ripe yet. We have to keep going. You have to remind the worm to be tasty or it won't work. And before you cast, you have to say, "Look out, mermaids!" Because if you catch one, they get really cranky, and he only had to learn that the hard way once. If the fish isn't a keeper, you have to make a deal with him before you throw him back to say, like, "I'll put you back, but as long as you tell your friends about the free lunch." Fireflies only learn to fly because their butts get so hot they used to light the grass on fire. Their butts don't get hot at all, but what did I know? I like his way better. You know, most of the vitamins in corn are actually in the husk. Alright, well, you shouldn't eat it still. Most of the vitamins in an oyster are in the shell. Probably also true. I thought that while I was writing it down, but you still shouldn't eat it. This one's actually not. Actually, most of a hot dog's vitamins are in the Cracker Jacks and Mountain Dew. He's showing me the butterfly collections. He said, "Oh, these butterflies are actually just trained to stand very still when they're under glass. These ones are sleeping. These are dead. And these are just crickets in costumes." The last one I remember him telling was, "I'm having trouble sorting out the bullshit." Because obviously he was way more into mixing the bullshit in. Anyhow, well, clearly we all learned a lot from him. He taught us a lot, and half of it came in the form of bullshit, but that didn't make it any less true. And I must have learned something from him because I made half of those up. And I'll be honest when I tell you a lot of it was bullshit.
Okay.
Anybody want to tell a story? Bonus points if it's funny.